What's up, guys, and welcome to the I Went to Fashion School podcast with me, Renata Hoga. In this episode, I spoke with my good friend Salome, who, like me, also studied fashion design for womenswear at the University of the Arts London. The difference is, I studied at the London College of Fashion and Salome was at Central St Martin's. Both colleges are under the University of the Arts London. All of the courses available at LCF are more fashion focused, hint London College of Fashion, whereas CSM, Central St Martin's, has a range of courses. For example, fashion design, graphic design, and fine art. When it comes to fashion design, CSM has a stronger reputation. Its alumni include many fashion heavy hitters, such as John Galliano, Alexandra McQueen, and Stella McCartney. I found that at times, LCF felt second to CSM. However, in this conversation with Salome, it becomes clear that both colleges have their own unique teaching methods and so cater to different design styles. In our talk, Salome shares her story and we compare our university experiences. We discuss internships, faith in fashion, and graduating during COVID-19. I have split our conversation up into 3 episodes. The first episode focuses on our first year and interning experiences. So if you want to just introduce yourself, say how you found yourself at CSM and your background.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Salome, and I grew up in a small town in Sweden called LCF. It's in the southern part, and I guess it could be a super long story, but I've always been creative and loved that, and I guess I've just throughout school and stuff I've found my ways to use my creativity even within the assignments of the different subjects, and I think it was somewhere around 6th grade I realized I was more interested in clothes, because I realized how people were reacting in certain ways, what you were wearing. So that's kind of when I realized I wanted to do fashion, I think, in the first sense. And then going to college, I chose to do creatives, and just to have a broader sense of trying everything. Then after, did a foundation year in fashion in Sweden.
Nice.
And met an English girl that told me about CSM that I didn't even know of.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I applied the first year. And I got all the way to the interview. And when I was in the building, I felt quite strongly, no, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
But then I didn't get in.
Oh, no.
So I was a bit God, what is this?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Should I be here?
So strange. Also because I felt really at home in London. But yeah, so I just spent that year really trying to develop and building my portfolio.
Okay, and you were tailoring it to go to CSM.
Yeah, because thing is, the way you tailor your portfolio in Sweden is completely different.
Okay.
You basically bring one really clean book with your stuff, and that's it. Whereas, obviously in London you don't. You bring everything.
Yeah.
So I brought so little the first time.
Oh, okay.
Just a clean little book, not even a sketchbook. So next year I brought everything.
Yeah. So pages, portfolios, sketchbooks, everything.
Yeah, everything. A lot. And then I got in that year then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So, but you didn't think, okay, I didn't get into CSM, maybe I should look somewhere else?
I did, so, thing is, I did apply in Sweden as well, and I went to those interviews at 2 different schools, but I just felt it was not right.
Okay.
I went to interview in one school and I felt, technically this school might even be better. I might even learn more technically here, and it's for free.
Okay.
But I just felt as a person, it was not right. It didn't feel right. So the other year that I applied then, the second year I applied, I did think I felt I don't want to be in the Swedish schools because that felt wrong at the interviews. But then I applied for LCF and I applied for CSM in Westminster. Because this year then or not this, but the second year I knew a bit more about the different schools. Because first year I just knew about CSM. But CSM was actually I prayed about it being like, God, I only want to get into. I just want to get into one course. I don't want to get into. I don't want to have the choice. And I only got into womenswear CSM.
Nice. But when you were applying, you applied to more than one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I applied. I had interview at knitwear as well. And then I had interview at LCF, and not at Westminster.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I applied to Westminster as well. Didn't get any interviews.
No.
Yeah. So. From CSM, you then came and you did, I guess, the course.
Yeah.
And then how was that different from the way you were in Sweden?
So I never went to university in Sweden even at that point because,
You did your foundation at the college?
No, I did the foundation. Yeah, but I did foundation in Sweden, but it's not in the university.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a separate thing. But yeah, how is that different from that maybe then? Yeah, it was quite different because at the foundation in Sweden, it was like a small group of people. And few teachers, small school, like everything was very small, basically. And then I came to this huge school.
Big city.
Big city. So it was very, very, like most things was different, I would say.
Yeah. And I think... It's interesting that you applied for LCF as well, because I went to LCF. Yeah. And I also applied to CSM, and I also applied to Westminster. So, yeah.
We applied all the things.
Everything.
And
then... and of LCF. So I think for mine, I did the foundation just like you as well. And then after my foundation, I applied to CSM and a couple of other places, as well as Westminster. And I didn't get into CSM. And then they said, we're going to consider your application for our other... campuses, because obviously I applied to UAL CSM, and then I got through to LCF via them transferring my portfolio to LCF, but I never considered LCF in the beginning. So it's interesting to see that I also did pray about it, and I was like, God, I want to go to London, but I really, 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 really want to go to CSM, but if it's not for me, it's not for me. And I just think that the fact that they took my portfolio and considered me for LCF instead says a lot about what they see in our applications, because obviously your first time you showed like the Scandinavian way of doing it, like a very clean, pristine thing, and that didn't fit in for them. But then when you came and you showed more of your work, it was like, actually she does fit in this. And I think for me not getting into CSM, it was like my style didn't fit in with CSM, but it did fit in with LCF. And part of me is a bit like,
how was did you have like one clean book? Or
no, I did everything as well, because we at foundation, that's what we have to do. We have to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of drawing, some illustrations, some samples, and it was like a lot of things. But I just think because I don't think I pushed my ideas like further in terms of them as garments. I pushed my ideas in terms of texture and color wise, but I didn't push them in terms of like what it would look like on the body, because my foundation just specialized in fashion as well. They did do a bit of textiles, not fashion. So that was a little bit I guess that's
so
why
interesting.
I didn't agree.
Yeah, because like I feel like so many people I've met that stand their foundations in London or in England, it's like such a specific structure.
Yeah.
And it's so much like 2D work. Whereas it was completely opposite. The one where I did, it was like so little about like sketchbook, like so little. And it was very free, I'd say. Like just like, okay, we want you to do a collection basically.
Oh, okay.
And then like we had, okay, so base it on like I think, was it like modern culture or something?
Okay.
Something quite broad, and then you could niche yourself. But like in that foundation, we actually made 2 collections each.
Wow. So you're sewing as well at foundation.
Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
It was like just like
everything,
make, and that was it. So yeah, I think I probably learned more about sewing there almost, because it's like, you know, like, yeah, we could get into that later on, but like CSM is not like mainly technical. It's
very about pushing ideas forwards and things.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like when you arrived in your first term. How was that? What was the project that they set?
Feels so long ago. It's funny. So first we arrived, and you know, you feel a bit like everything is very new. I felt like the first time took quite a lot of energy, because like new people, new city, new home, like everything was so new. And even like coming from a small town with very few impressions, and then you come to like the big city, and you know, it's a lot going on. But so we first arrived and we were like introduced to the group. Actually, the first thing that happened was that me and a girl I met at enrollment, we got lost.
Oh, no.
Like not lost, but like we came into the wrong class.
Okay.
So we were in this class and we realized it was the wrong class. So we like had to run over to our class then. So we like interrupted the teacher speaking. So that was like my first like introduction.
Like, welcome.
Hello. And then it was like a silly small group project, you know, walking around London, getting to know each other, whatever. And like we had to do like this theatrical performance about that. Like I had Spitalfields, and I felt quite like alienated in that position, because I was like, I'm not a show personality in that sense, but
and also it's a new place that you've not.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I know nothing about Spitalfields. I know nothing about this class. But it was okay. Like we got to know each other a bit, and after that, I think, you know, it was just white projects straight away.
Okay, in terms of like, the white.
Yeah, so actually, before that, we had a summer project that we did in the summer, and that we presented like second day or something.
And with that, it's more about like narrative and finding a concept more so than actually figuring out the details of a garment.
No, no. Actually, it was like a whole project. So it was like from beginning to end, really. It was like research, sketching, and then making a garment.
Okay, but there was no because for us, we also got homework for the summer. So our homework was to look at shirts. So we had to do loads of research on like the technical sides of shirts, and going into shops and photographs and graphing like the collars, the cuffs, the plaquettes, and all these things to do with the shirt. So we did all that research, and then when we came, we then had to build on that research surrounding just the physical garment of a shirt. But it's interesting for you guys that it was quite broad. It could have been you could have started like anywhere with it, and then for us we had to reinterpret the shirt, but the final outcome had to be a shirt, whereas for you guys it could have been
anything.
Yeah,
it was very loose.
Yeah,
but we had shirt project later on.
Okay.
So we had still a shirt project, but that was after white project, and then we did that thing as
the shirt project.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting that actually you guys were put into groups from the get-go, so you could start bonding. In ours, it was like, this is your form, and we attend the form and bring our own work and just discuss in pairs. But it's interesting that you guys were actually outside bonding and creating and thinking and trying to figure out a concept.
So how you came, and then how was you grouped then?
So they had already put us in groups. So we were like D group, B group, A group, C group.
Oh, we had those groups as well, but we were put into smaller groups.
Smaller groups, no, we didn't have that. It was very like independent project around shirts. I mean, we did have later on have a group project, but that was just like one. Whereas I think it's interesting that you guys from the get go they were like start engaging with each other. And so what was the outcome of that project?
With the first one with the group, that was not really a creative. I guess it was in a sense, but we didn't make anything.
Oh, okay.
It was just like going out in the city and like researching a certain area of London, and then doing a performance about that area. Oh,
okay. Then so it wasn't restricted to a final garment.
No, it was just to socialize.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. And then, but on top of that, you had the other projects, the white projects alongside that.
Yeah.
And how was that?
White project was one-on-one. It was independent, but we still shared table and stuff. Because, it's quite, like, it's not a lot of space in CSM. So you always have, like, loads of people.
Yeah.
And we had some pattern cutting. So we had, like, pattern cutting classes. So we were also, like, group A, B, and C and had our pattern cutting.
We had the same as well. Like,
how was your pattern cutting? Was it quite, like, in depth, or was it like?
I think it was quite in depth, because I think for the first time it's about 10 weeks, and each week we were doing, like, this is how you draft a collar, this is how you draft a shirt sleeve, this is how you draft a plaquette, a cuff. So we did, like, almost like 3 or 4 weeks where each week we were learning how to draft different sections of a shirt.
That's good.
Yeah. Did you guys have that?
No. I feel like our pattern cutting was very basic.
Okay.
Very basic. It was just, like, basically blocks.
Okay.
And then if you wanted something specific, you asked, and they could show you bits. But it was very basic.
Yeah.
Like, I knew more than we were taught.
Oh, okay. Because you did that already in your foundation?
No, because I did, like... So after my foundation, I actually did a weekend course in pattern cutting.
Oh, okay.
But it was just, like, 50 hours in total or something. But, like, I learned how to make patterns from measurements. So, I would recommend anyone going to CSM to learn as much as you can
about
patterns before, because they ain't gonna teach you
that
a lot.
much, yeah.
No, because, I mean, if you really want to design clothes, like, you can't just be working off of blocks, really. Like,
no.
You can, but, like, you won't have a depth of understanding within, like, how a garment is produced, because, like, pattern construction it's so broad. It could be like working from just one set of blocks is very limiting to what it could be,
because you have to kind of figure out, because we also had blocks. So one of our first technical lessons is they gave us, like, the bodice block, the skirt block, and the sleeve to go with the bodice block, and from there, we'd have to bring those blocks to every technical class, and then they'd show us how to manipulate that block to create a shirt, to change the sleeve so it fitted more like a shirt, or it fitted more like a t-shirt. So we had those kind of classes where we used the blocks to manipulate them into actual garments. But you guys didn't so much have that.
No, we got those blocks, and we had a little bit, but like. We had a little bit of it, but not that much. It was not, like, a main focus thing. Did you have pattern cutting classes, like, throughout all the years?
Yes. Yeah.
Because we did not.
Oh, okay.
No. So we had, like, probably most of it in first year, I'd say. And then in second year, very little. Third year, nothing.
Not so much. Well.
Or fourth year, because we had placement year.
Yeah.
So obviously nothing
Not so
in third
much.
year as well.
No, for us it was almost like every project was split as a design and a technical. So we had sample room and design class. So when you were thinking about the concept, the research, the story that you're wanting to tell with your collection, that was more for design class. So you'd come with collages, sketches, concept boards, images, like poetry or whatever is inspiring your project. You'd bring that to design class, and then from that you could you'd go to your technical class, and in the technical classes where you'd bring your ideas, like your physical ideas. Or I've done this drape, or I have this collage, how could I make this into a drape? Or I have this pattern, how can I push it further so it reflects more with my concept? So throughout the whole, like, 3 years, those kind of 2 classes went alongside each other. So whatever you did in design class, you'd have to think, how can I transfer it into technical? And once I've done it in technical, how can I then push it again in my design? So it was always running alongside each other. It was never like just focused solely on design, or obviously in your free time you could go out into the museums and do all these research, but it was always like, okay, you've done the design, let's do the technical now. So if you guys didn't have the technical so much, how did they push you to create the garments?
So actually, like, in final year we did have, like, and both in final year and second year, like, as I said, we didn't have, like, that much of classes in pattern cutting, but instead we had our personal pattern cutters.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but, like, not personal, but like we were in groups, so, like, there would be one pattern cutter for, like, a group of people, and she had a list, and then she'd come and see you. And I mean, that works, but it's like it's not you having the knowledge that much. If it's like, it's up to you to have as much knowledge as you want, really, or
Yeah.
like you have to go look for that yourself, or like ask as much as you can and prepare for when they are coming.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because since we didn't have that many classes, like you wouldn't naturally just learn loads.
Yeah.
In pattern cutting. So either you knew it before, or you learned yourself in your spare time.
And then you came to kind of get some more help with your technical teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you think that did that hinder you in any way, or do you think you came well prepared when you arrived?
For me, since I already did pattern cutting before, it was fine. Like like especially in final year, I didn't feel like I needed my pattern cutter that much.
Okay, because you kind of knew what you wanted to create.
Yeah, and I felt like she was bringing her style to the patterns, and you know, she was great. Like, but I felt like I wanted the patterns to be in my style. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she was great to like show me when I didn't know how to figure something out, but then like I wanted to do the patterns myself.
Yeah. I think that's the same for me, because I think once they show you like this is how you draft a shirt, you're kind of just like, okay, this is it. This is the law of all shirts. You can't go anywhere else. This is it. So for me, I was like, okay, if I did a drape and it was like wacky, and I just saw that I couldn't see the traditional shirt coming together, so it still looked like a shirt, but the drape was very organic and very me, I struggled to kind of connect the two. So for me, it was always like, this drape is like one side of the spectrum, and then the actual shirt pattern cutting is on the other side. So I really failed to kind of create my own style, because I was like, this is how it should be, but this is how is it going to work the way I want it to work. So yeah.
Yeah, I relate to that, because that's like, I've been thinking about like my journey of like designing and patterns, because it's like such two different worlds in a sense.
Yes.
So it's really hard when you have like the technical bit and you have the creative bit, and like how to combine them.
Yeah.
Because you either like go into a mode of like technical or a mode of creative, and it takes quite a while before you can like connect them in a sense.
And find a balance.
Yeah, because that's what I felt like in my foundation. I was quite creative, but I knew nothing about patterns, so I just made, you know. But it could be like creatively quite like some things I could, you know, be happy about, but then I learned pattern cutting, and then I became a bit more strict again.
Yeah, because there's like laws of pattern cutting. Yeah, 100% agree. Because even for me at fashion foundation, I was like, I'm just gonna do this, and if it works, it works, and then get a model, wrap it all around it. If it's staying, it's staying. If it's not, I'm happy to change it. But once you kind of know, like, a dot should be here, and then like the sleeve should be a little bit lower, and it's round around the back, and it's just like, what? But I'm still grateful for like knowing those things, because now at least when I see a jacket, I'm thinking, okay, I know the pieces that came together to make that jacket.
Yeah, because I feel like it's all a journey. Like, it was like, I feel like straight after I become much more strict, but then once you're like out on the other end in a sense, then you are starting to like realize how to connect the two. And I feel like just like, I think through like final year, I kind of like started to know my way of pattern cutting and like my style of pattern cutting a bit more. Yeah. Whereas like second year I struggled a lot, because like I had these two like fighting within my
I want to break the laws, but I want to follow the laws as well. And so you also spoke about having that gap year. So you did a internship for a whole year. So how was that?
Oh, it was such a special year. I feel like it was so great to have a break from university and be somewhere else. On so many different levels. Like, personally, just to like, I mean, second year I struggled quite a bit to like find my way of designing and all of that. And it was quite nice to, you know, take a step backwards from your own creativity, and kind of analyze it and see, you know, what am I doing that is working and what is not working. And I felt like there was a lot of things that didn't really work for me. So trying to like see how I could change this to coming year when it was final year. And then also like obviously doing a placement, like seeing part of the industry and what that is like. So I went to Burberry. That was my first one, but actually like I had some time when I like was without the placement, which felt like an eternal time. But it was like until I think Oktoberfest, November, something like
2 months.
Maybe
2 months?
early November. Yes, it was not a lot, but it felt like an eternal time. I think beginning November I started at Burberry or something. Yeah. So at that time, I think even that time was quite like helpful for me because it was like patience, but
yeah,
I'm quite impatient.
And what was your role at Burberry?
So it was a fashion design internship at the runway team.
Okay.
So that was quite exciting because we were designing the things to go on the runway, like not me personally, but like the team.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was ready to wear and there was runway. So I was in the runway team. And I feel like, you know, when you intern, much of your role is like about structure and like creating structure and make everything work smoothly, because you kind of work like between the lines in a sense.
Okay.
So
and when you mean structure, you mean in terms of how you relate to the other people, how you relate to like the workspace, or
I mean like you know, having them like for the machinery to work, there is like small bits that needs fixing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we were working kind of in between the lines, doing things that maybe you can't see when you look straight at it. But like,
and what example, like?
Yeah, for example, like I would like bike to the city and buy 100 lint rollers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Then go back. Then some other day I would buy like loads of bra straps and you know, all of these kind of things. Or like doing color ups of sketches, do fittings, taking care of the models, picking the models up, going buy something, print things, bring things to meetings.
Yeah, so like the kind of the almost like the nuts and bolts that
exactly
help.
Yeah. The card house, not the ball.
Okay, and did you think, like, obviously being in that experience, you got to see a lot of how the industry works and how things operate in a big fashion house like Burberry. How did that experience kind of help you in your practice?
So I think it was very helpful to see how the fashion industry, like what it looks like today, and see part of it, but then also knowing like this is just like one company, and even like speaking to classmates that had been on basically all the other companies. So that was like me having one piece of the puzzle and them having the others, and then getting like a bigger perspective. So that was interesting in the sense of like, you know, how do I, as a designer, relate to this, and what is my role, and what role do I want to have, and which role do I not want to have? And then, like, working there, I feel like one of my weaknesses is really this, like, structural thing, like, having a good structure, and it was quite, like, clear when the structure did not work as well, like, so learning how to structure things, really, even just like us taking care of the research, you know, like putting it into maps and plastic folders, and we did a lot of like structuring and organizing. So I think that was like and even actually like we did a lot of research, and what I felt was like from beginning of CSM, it was like when you had research on garments, it was not really relevant because you were supposed to have more like conceptual research. At least like in first year. Then, I mean, it changed like also with teachers and stuff. And I always felt a bit confused by that because I felt like I had the concept within me and I didn't really need pictures for that always. So for me, it was really like a good reminder that actually I love garments, like because I research garments so much. I could sit like when I was at Burberry, I was sent to CSM library to like research garments for days and just like copying interesting things. So that was like me realizing again, like I actually love garments. And then bringing that into my research for final collection, being like, actually, I'm gonna mainly research garments. Because that had been a bit like taboo against in like, I think it's so personal as well, who does it and who does it, because for some people maybe that is they will then just copy, whereas for some people that is actually a good thing to research. You know what I mean? So
almost like the foundation of like if you're saying, okay, within my collection I want a jacket, knowing what other jackets look like might also help you to interpret the jacket in a way that reflects your concept, but still is, you know, it's a distinguish, like within the collection you can distinguish the fact that this is a jacket, even though it's like very conceptual.
Yeah. And I think like if you can reference garments in so many different ways, and like a shirt, there is like so many different shirts. So like especially like when working on a full collection, it's very important with a common denominator that comes through. Otherwise it's just like a mix of garments.
And I think it's interesting also, like you're emphasizing the fact that you guys were pushed to be more conceptual, because in all of our projects we had to show technical like garment research. If you didn't show it, it was like it was really bad. Like you had to have a technical file that showed that you researched the garments that you were going to make, and if you weren't, a garment that kind of was the foundation of the pieces that you're making. So yeah, that's really interesting that is a difference. And I think we knew that like within LCF, we knew that at CSM everything's a little bit different from us, but just sitting here and like discussing the experience, like you guys are very much conceptual in the way that you guys are taught, but we're more like technical, and there's a very like big emphasis on that.
It's also though, however, I think that it kind of changed throughout the years, because we had different teachers in first year, and then second year and third year I think we would have, and it's very like it depends what you did as well, like what kind of things you would make, because some people would definitely be asked about like research on garments if they were making something that was, you know, that kind of needed that, whereas some people would not if they didn't need it. So it was very, very personal, but I feel like in first year definitely like it was a bit like why are you researching garments in a sense, but then we had like first year teachers, and then in second and third year or fourth year we had our pathway leaders. So I feel like,
what does pathway leader mean?
So they lead the course. So they lead womenswear, and they have second year and final years, but they don't have the first year. So the first years are left to first year teachers.
And then you would have the same pathway teacher in your third year, or different?
Same. Same,
So am I right in saying that first year was more about you guys figuring out what your voice was, so what your tone was as a designer, and then once you got to second and third year it was more like, okay, how can we add technical to that? How can we, you know, position you in the right place within the industry based on the kind of voice that you developed during first year?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like first year was like we had very little 3D work and much sketchbook. It felt like it was like sketchbook year, really. Like it was a lot of sketchbooking and collaging and illustrating, printing, but it was not that much about actually thinking about garments. I felt personally like we did a shirt project, did the white project, and then we did a group project. That's all that we did. That was make. Otherwise it was just like research, concept design.
And in each term, was it focused on just one project, or did you have to juggle like multiple projects?
We had one at a time always.
Same here.
Which I felt was good.
No. I think also, but you know, within second term of every year, it was combined with an essay as well.
Yeah,
like CHS. Well. And that was the same for us, because we had the shirt project in the first term. The second term we did like a tailoring, more technical kind of more tailored project, and then the third term we had a group project connected to industry as well. But yeah, it's interesting that they did keep it on one project at a time. But I do feel like I would have probably benefited more if it wasn't like, because the whole term is quite a long time just to be thinking about one project. I don't know how your foundation was like, but we had like 4 weeks, 6 weeks projects, and in that you're like quickly generating ideas, which I like the pace of, because then I don't know, I feel like when you have 3 months you're kind of like super connected to it, and your decisions can take a bit longer because you're just a bit like, oh no, I really love this project. But when you know it's like a 3-week project and you'll be done, it's almost like quick snappy decisions, and I don't know, I just like the energy of just doing it in 3 weeks. I don't know if that was the same for you.
Yeah, I think we had shorter projects, and then we had longer in second year. Yeah, I think so. But it's because we had so few make projects in first year.
Okay.
So it made sense that we just 2 weeks, because it's like just a sketchbook and drawn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
how many times did you make in first year?
3.
3 times. Okay, we made 3 times as well. But you had smaller projects within that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ah, interesting. Going back to your Burberry experience, like what was the biggest lesson that you learned at your time there?
No, I think that it was the structure.
The structure.
Part. Yeah, the structure. Because even like, for the interview, because for me it was like maybe a bit unexpected that I would apply for this specific one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you said that he said your work reflected more another brand rather than Burberry.
Yeah. And even like, I think, people would be like, why? Because if people knew that was actually the only one I applied for, which seems so random, because it's like, it's not that I'm like such a typical Burberry girl.
Yeah.
But it was just like, I really prayed for my placement year, because I felt, I've heard experience of people doing placements, and the favorite designer was like such a bad place, or and I just pray that I will be somewhere where I learn something that is going to be beneficial for me, and where I'm supposed to be, really.
Yeah.
And first one was Burberry, and then later on I was actually at a shoe factory in Sweden. It's like a shoe museum, but they make shoes. But yeah, so the thing is, like, we had emails coming in of like, oh, they are looking for places. I never applied for any of them until the Burberry one came, and I just felt like in my heart, like, I'm supposed to apply for this.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, really? Am I? Because there had been other brands that maybe I felt closer to aesthetically coming up.
And you didn't apply to them?
No.
Is that just they didn't feel right? Or?
It didn't feel right.
And was there anything particular that didn't feel right, or was it just the role that was being...
No, it was nothing about the role. It was just like, it felt wrong. Like, I felt like I'm not supposed to apply.
Yeah.
And then with the Burberry one, I just felt like, okay, Salome, this is the time now you're supposed to apply.
Yeah.
So I did, and it took like 2 days, and then I had an interview, and then 2 days after that, I had the position.
Like 4 days.
Yeah.
But do you regret not applying to the other places?
No.
That's really... Yeah, wow. But that's strange, because like you're saying about the bad experience, but my one was in the 3rd term of my 2nd year, and I too was like, I wasn't like, I don't know, I just focused more on the projects, that I wasn't really pushing myself to be like, let's apply here, apply everywhere, because that's what they were like. I didn't apply to much, but part of me does feel like maybe I should have. But anyway, so I didn't apply to many, and I applied to some that I liked, and some teachers helped to like reference. But I found a place at I'm not going to say the name because it wasn't like a good experience, but I found one, and it was like a pattern cutting brand that does pattern cutting for bigger brands and all that, and I was like, cool, more pattern cutting experience, yay.
That's cool.
So I did apply to that, and it fell through. So I did like maybe 3 or 4 weeks with them, and I was working from home for them, so they posted the pattern for me, and I did CAD drawings for them and designed some things for them based on a block that they gave me, and kind of like pushed that block into other garments. So I did that. So I did like 10 different patterns for 10 different jumpers for them, all at home. And then once I've done that, I emailed them. I was like, okay, I've done. What would you like me to do next? Yeah. And they were like, oh, we can't have you in anymore. And that was it. And I was like, what?
That's so strange, though. Surely they would want help.
Their patterns, exactly. And
weird.
Yeah. So
did you get paid?
No.
What?
Yeah.
How would they not want help? That's so odd.
It's crazy. So yeah, so that fell through, and I had to like run around, like I still have to write a report on these guys. It's too late for me to find a new one. But thankfully, like, everything came out well, and I got a good grade for that and everything. But just the fact that the idea that you have, like, I'm gonna go to this place and I'm gonna intern and have this great experience, that's not how it it happens. Sometimes you go and it sucks, and you come out with like, I mean, I was still like, I learned a lot about myself and the way that I work, because I was working from home, but it sucked to know that the industry doesn't care. Some people in the industry just don't care. If they're too busy, they're too busy. You're out. But, and also, like, your token from that wasn't necessarily like, oh yeah, I worked at Burberry and I've got all these contacts. Like, your takeaway from Burberry was that you learned to structure yourself more as a designer. And I think it's great because it's just showing, like, fashion is real. It's not just this world where it's like, oh yeah, I learned, you know, all this whimsical, fancy stuff that they portray in the film. Sometimes you just go and you realize about yourself, like me, or you realize about, I need to be more organized, or I need to structure myself a little bit more, or this is how the industry works outside of making it works as a foundation of a business. But yeah, I think that's quite interesting too.
Yeah, and it was even more clear for me, I think, that like, okay, wow, fashion today is definitely most business. Yeah. And like the creative part is just like a little thing on the side. Really. Yeah. It's
very business led. Interesting. But it is also questionable how we're taught. We're still taught quite like, you know, in this bubble of just creating, drawing, making, selling. There's not a lot of business.
I think that's good in a sense though, because like there is so, I mean, I guess both, but like maybe it's good that we get taught creativity because, like, get taught, but you know what I mean? Like, that we still try to keep that soul of what creativity means.
Yeah, we keep it alive, yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like that is, like, what is actually needed today. Because we have, like, the business part, like, everything is business. Everything is money, everything.
And everything is just being copied. There's not innovation. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. But yeah, that's very interesting.
We need it for a change.
Word. Yeah, is there anything else you want to say about, like, in comparison to, like, how you, because obviously you still applied to LCF, but you really wanted CSM and you got there. Was there anything that you thought about, that you were ever curious about LCF or the way we worked in comparison to you? What was it?
I think it was a bit like what you said, like more, I always had the experience you guys were a bit more technical, a bit more commercialized focused, and us is more like an artsy focus. And I don't even know what I think is better, you know. I feel like you can get a good experience out of both. It depends so much on yourself, and it depends what you expect, what you have already, what you need more of.
100%. And I think also that doesn't mean to say that everybody on my course or in your course was very technical. That doesn't mean some people were very conceptual and very creative and they pushed and were very arty. And I think you would find that maybe on your courses, on your cohort as well.
Some people in my class would be like excellent pattern cutters.
Yeah, and more technical. But it's just a sense of like style and I guess what shoe fits best for the person. Because in a way, I was bummed, but at the same time, I'm really grateful that I went to LCF because I think it just worked well for the way that I think and the way that I do things. I think I would have struggled a little bit more in just the way I think about my projects and the way I think about my practice if I was at